Hello, welcome back everybody to the cooking show, to the cooking stream. I hope you're all having a beautiful day today. If you're watching this live, it is currently Sunday, July 28th, 5 p.m. EDT as always. And hello to all of my lovely sous chefs in the chat. Hello to Shai Chicken, hello to Serena Chats, hello to Eskia. I think we also saw Trash Can Cat Mom. Welcome on into Ilium as well. It is lovely to see all of you. Yeah, if we can get a mod to be able to go ahead and nuke that bot, please and thank you. Get him out of here. Get him completely obliterated. Thank you very much. It is lovely to have you. Welcome on in. I'm a little bit low energy today. I went out last night. It was my friend's birthday. And so I'm a little bit more tired than usual. Also, Zlo the Meek, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. So everybody, we're going to be doing a dish today that is one of my favorites. I keep on saying that, oh, this stream is going to be on the shorter end, and it never ends up being on the shorter end, but I think this one's going to be on the slightly shorter end. We're going to be doing some red beans and rice. And I know that sounds really, really simple, but this is specifically Cajun Creole red beans and rice, right? Stemming from Louisiana. It's really, really delicious. It has a lot of amazing flavors going on with it, and we'll go ahead and talk about that. I love talking about beans. I love talking about legumes, and so I'm really excited to be able to get into this today because I quite frankly think that everybody should be eating some more beans. There's so many delicious and exciting preparations of beans and bean stews and bean-based dishes, and this has to be up there as one of my favorites. And so we can go ahead and already just jump into some of the ingredients that we have. Now, for anybody that's been watching the show, you know that I love using dried beans. You know that I never tell you to buy canned beans, but guess what? I, unfortunately, already have some canned beans. Why? Because these are the ones that my roommate brought over from her previous place. And so, in the interest of using up the things that I have at home, I will be doing something that is very sacrilegious to this channel, very sacrilegious to the show, which is going to be using canned beans. Again, guys, if you have canned beans, we could go ahead and use them. It's going to be just fine. It's going to be delicious. I normally always advocate for using dried beans because it's cheaper and you get to control the texture of it a little bit more. But in this case, my friends, I've got some canned beans and so we'll be using those. I have a couple of cans of kidney beans. One of them is light red, the other is dark red. Doesn't really matter. It's still going to be delicious and it's still going to be fantastic at the end of the day. Super important. Do not drain that bean liquid. You need that bean liquid to maintain your ideal viscosity because the goal of red beans and rice is for it to be creamy, is for it to be rich, is for it to be thick, and for it to be delicious, my friends. And so you do not want to drain or rinse that liquid because that cooking liquid, that canning liquid, is what ends up becoming really, really nice and thick when you do put it all together. So, everybody, I have a couple of cans of beans here that I just wanted to go ahead and use up for today. And that was my inspiration. I wanted to do beans, and I have these 2 cans of kidney beans. I'm gonna go ahead and put those behind me. Next, my friends, I have a really, really excellent ingredient here. These are some smoked turkey necks. Now, smoked turkey necks, they are exactly what they sound like. They're turkey necks that have been specifically smoked, and these are going to be used in the broth for the beans. We're going to be essentially creating a really, really delicious broth out of some vegetable scraps, and by using the turkey necks, we get to add in this really amazing element of smokiness into the beans. This is how we build flavor. This is not going to be a vegan dish. We're not going to be basing these red beans and rice off of water. So, a really, really essential component in my mind, my friends, is going to be the smoked turkey necks. Super important, super, super essential, and we're going to be doing a little stock with them inside of the pressure cooker for you today. I'm going to go ahead and set that behind me. Next up, my friends, traditionally for red beans and rice, you would use what is known as andouille sausage. I had this leftover Italian sausage sitting in my freezer. I'm not going to go out of my way to go ahead and buy some andouille because this is what I already have at home, and this is what I already have ready to go. Is it going to be exactly the same as using andouille? Not in the slightest. Hot Italian sausage and andouille sausage are very, very different, but it's still going to be delicious. It's still going to be sausage with beans. Sausage and beans just, you know, they go together so beautifully. So some hot Italian sausage. Again, if you have access to really good quality andouille sausage, I recommend that you do that. But again, this is all in the interest of using up the things that we already have. Jay, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. So we have some andouille. We have some hot Italian sausage. I'm going to go ahead and put that behind me. Next up, everybody, it would not be Cajun Creole cooking without the Cajun Creole trinity. And that is going to be a trinity of celery, onion, and bell pepper. Also, the real Galaxy Bash, thank you so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate it. And welcome on in, Taza. So, everybody, in a lot of different cuisines, to make things taste like they're from that cuisine, they have an idea of aromatic bases. They have this idea of certain trinities. So, in Latin American cuisine, for example, you have what is known as a sofrito, which is made out of cilantro, it's made out of tomatoes, it's made out of chilies and peppers. Okay, in French cuisine, you have a mirepoix, and then you have the trinity that is used in Cajun Creole cooking. And in this case, my friends, it is celery, onion, and bell pepper. So, ultimately, you could play around with the kind of allium that you're using. You could do scallions, you could do leeks instead of just doing a plain old onion. You could use any kinds of like green pepper. You don't want to use like dried chilies, anything that's really nice and vegetal. I also have a leftover jalapeno in my fridge that I'm going to be adding into the pot of beans because I already have it, and I want to make the most out of what I already have. Jalapenos and green bell peppers, my friends, they have that similar vegetal quality to it. And last but not least, we also have some celery. But ultimately, you want to hit celery component, green pepper component, and allium component to be able to make it taste iconically Cajun, to make it taste iconically Creole. And then everybody, you also can't have Cajun Creole cooking without some garlic. And last but not least, I also have these baby serranos that I wanted to go ahead and use up as well. I had them in my fridge, so let's go ahead and add them into the pot of beans and rice. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that behind me. Next up, my friends. So, a really big misconception with Cajun Creole cooking is that it uses a lot of spices. People think that you have to absolutely be spice maxing at all points in time. And that is not true at all. In fact, Cajun Creole cooking, it's a lot of meat-based things. It's about using the Cajun Creole trinity. And it's a lot of herbs as well. So I have some dried sage, and I also have some bay leaves, and then we also have some dried thyme. We're gonna create a very basic herbaceous mixture, but it's not gonna be a lot of heavy spices, right? So no cumin, nothing in that nature. We just have some dried herbs, my friends. So bay leaves, sage leaves, as well as some thyme leaves. We're gonna be grinding up some of them, and it's gonna be really nice and delicious. Okay, but again, a really big misconception is that people, they like to throw in pounds and pounds of Cajun Creole seasoning into everything, and that is not the heart and soul of Cajun Creole cooking. It can be quite minimalistic in terms of the spices that you add into it, and so not everything needs to be loaded up with it, because we'll have the smokiness from the turkey, we'll have the herbaceousness from the bay leaves, the thyme, as well as the sage leaves. Right? We're gonna have that base aromatic flavor, and so we're gonna also have the spices from the sausage. We don't need a lot of additional spices on top of all of that. Okay, last but not least though, we're gonna make some rice. I'm gonna be doing a butter rice, not just like a plain rice. It'll have some butter and some onions. You could do any kind of rice that you would like. I believe this is some jasmine. And then everybody, for red beans and rice, you always finish it off with a hot sauce. Ideally, I'd be using something like Crystal or Frank's Red Hot. I couldn't find either of them in my area. So I have some Red Devil hot sauce instead, which I've never tried before. But you know, at the end of the day, any good acidic vinegar-based hot sauce is going to be what you're looking for. You're not looking for anything incredibly spicy. You're looking for the acidity of the hot sauce above all else. Beans and vinegar, they go so well together. So many different cultures, you see the mixture of acidity with beans, and it just makes it so much more savory. It makes it so much more delicious. Okay, so as far as ingredients go today, again, nothing crazy, nothing really complicated. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the stock for the beans. We're going to be pressure cooking my turkey necks. We'll be pressure cooking some of the vegetable scraps. We'll be adding all of it directly into my Instant Pot because that is the fastest way to be able to get broths consistently in a home setting. So we'll get on that in a second. Everybody, before we begin today, I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching, please, and thank you. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. At any point in time, if you have any cooking questions whatsoever, feel free to ask me. Or you can always just type in !mark menu to get a full list, a full inventory of all the different things that we'll be using today. Alexis, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you, and I hope you're having an excellent day. So, I'm gonna have a little sip of water, and then we can begin, my friends. Oh, I was a little bit dehydrated. I was yelling a lot last night. We just like went out and it was just loud and it was a loud venue, and so I had to be constantly shouting. So my voice is a little bit shot, so I do apologize for that in advance. So everybody, the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do, I neglected to take out my pressure cooker pot. I forgot to do so, so please forgive me for just a moment in time. But yeah, here goes. I have my Instant Pot. I have it all ready to go for you today. Also, thank you so much for the sub from Meek. Freddie, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. So, everybody, my pressure cooker pot, all ready to go. And of course, I'm going to be using my Instant Pot for this today. Why am I using an Instant Pot? Why am I using a pressure cooker pot? Because again, this is consistently one of the best ways to get homemade stocks and broths inside of a home setting. You could do this in a regular pot. Of course, you don't necessarily need a pressure cooker pot, but this is able to do it in 50 minutes instead of 2.5 hours, right? And the way that pressure cookers work is that by increasing the amount of pressure inside of the pot, you increase the boiling temperature of water past 100 degrees Celsius, meaning it is getting hotter than typically boiling water, okay? So, pressure cooker pot, all ready to go. We'll add all of the ingredients into it and go ahead and fill that up in just a little bit. So, a very, very nice thing about doing homemade stocks and homemade broths is that it's a really nice way of using up existing aromatic vegetable scraps. Guys, I have this bell pepper and I have this jalapeno that I was going to go ahead and trim up anyways for you today, okay? And so ultimately, all that we're going to go ahead and do, I'm just going to rip off the stems. We don't need the stems. I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the head of each of these bad boys. I'm going to cut off the heads because all of these would normally get discarded anyways. And so instead of discarding them, I'm going to go ahead and add them on into my pressure cooker pot so that it can ultimately contribute into the final stock. Your vegetable scraps, as long as they're washed, they have the flavor to still be able to extract out of them instead of always throwing them away. So bell pepper and jalapeno. I'm just going to go ahead and put that inside. Next, everybody, I have some celery. Normally we discard the whites, the tops and the bottoms of the celery, the most dried out parts, because they don't make for the nicest eating. And so I'm going to bestow a little bit of knowledge upon you. I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool. Okay? So a lot of the time when you're eating raw celery, especially a very mature celery, celery tends to get stuck in your teeth. The fibers tend to get stuck inside of your teeth. Okay, and so there's a very nice way to be able to get rid of those. Celery does not have to necessarily be so fibrous, and it's super simple, everybody. All that we do, the white part of the celery that we normally discard, the part that we normally throw away, we're just going to go ahead, grab it like a handle, and then, well, hold on, that piece just came off immediately. Hello? Does it not want to peel off today? Maybe my entire speech is going to be all for naught. But normally, if you do this right, you should be able to go ahead and peel off a good amount of the fibers. Now, in a raw setting, this is super, super important to do because the fibers, they can get really, really tough and they can get stuck in your teeth. If you're cooking celery, of course, this does not matter in the slightest. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take all of these dried out bits of celery that would not normally be the best for eating. All that we're going to go ahead and do is just throw it into the pot. But normally, again, if it's a very mature celery, the fibers are super, super thick. You get to just rip it off. You get to just rip it off, my friends, and the fibers come off with it. In this case, honestly, the fibers aren't so thick, it's not going to be that tough and chewy, so my demonstration fell a little bit flat today, and that's okay. So, all my celery scraps are going back inside of the pot. This is the celery that we'll be cooking with later on. Also, thank you so much to Slippy for the sub. Thank you, thank you. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Last but not least, guys, we have an onion. You know what we can do? That's right, we can also use up the onion scraps as well. So we're going to just take the onion, we're going to go ahead and slice off the head. Because I didn't bother peeling off the skin, all that I'm going to go ahead and do is just throw away the skin. And you can see that inside gets like a little bit dirty as well. So that's not stuff that we want inside of the final broth, unless you washed it, in which case, Godspeed, go ahead. It'll be totally fine and delicious. This bad boy, I'm gonna go ahead and throw into my pot. Then I'm gonna go ahead and just slice my onion right down the middle. And then when I peel the onion, I take off a good amount of it. Right? I'm just going to go ahead and peel back that layer. And so the layer of flesh that we peel back that is not directly in contact with the skin, or we can even put in some of the skin as well, right inside of the pressure cooker pot, my friends. Because again, this is all going to get strained out. It's still going to be ultimately delicious at the end of the day. And all that we're doing is we're maximizing the amount of allium flavor that we have inside of our stock and making the most out of some of our existing leftovers. So all of my little onion scraps that would normally get thrown away, I'm just throwing them all inside of the pressure cooker pot, my friends. Okay, I can go ahead and put my onions away now. Next, what do we have to do, guys? I have some bay leaves. Normally, you have to pluck out the bay leaves because, you can't really eat them and you don't really grind up bay leaves. And so instead of adding the bay leaves into the pot of beans, I'm going to be adding the bay leaves inside of the pot of stock instead. And that's going to make our lives so much easier. So all I'm going to do is grab a nice few leaves. We don't need too many. We don't need it to be aggressively herbaceous or anything. Get a few of those bad boys, and we'll just go ahead and put them inside of the pressure cooker pot as well. Again, the beauty of this is that we get to use up all of our existing vegetable scraps, right? We don't have to throw them away. We get to still extract a little bit of flavor from them, which is another reason why you should be always making your own homemade stocks. So, bay leaves inside of the pot at the moment. We're not going to do garlic inside of the stock because we're going to be frying up the garlic for the beans. Last but not least, my friends, is going to be the smoked turkey necks. Now, I'm not going to be using up all of these for today. This is a lot of smoked turkey necks. I don't need that many today. And so all I'm going to go ahead and do is just open up the package and put them inside of my pot as well. Okay, and how many am I going to use? I don't know, enough. I'm only doing like 2 cans of red beans. Again, normally I would only exclusively work with dried kidney beans, but because we already had some canned beans at home, I'm going to be using those up for today. We don't need too much though. I'm not going to be making a massive pot of beans, so I'm going to go ahead and get a few of those lovely turkey bones inside of the pot. And so, I really like the area that I live in now because now I have consistent access to things like smoked ham hocks, to things like smoked turkey necks, okay? They have a little bit of meat inside of them. You can't really eat them raw as it is, but these will add so much flavor into the stock, my friends. Is that your red kettle, chef? Technically, it is my roommate's, so I guess it is for the both of us. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in some of those lovely turkey necks. All right, and what we are going to end up with at the end of the day, my friends, is a delicious, smoky, savory stock above all else. And that is what's really going to be ultimately contributing to the flavor of the beans. I have no idea how many turkey necks I just put in. All I know is that I put in roughly enough. Whatever it looked like it was going to be enough, it was maybe half a pound of turkey necks, okay? And this is going to give our beans a lot of delicious meatiness. It's going to give it a lot of amazing flavor. So, the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and fill up this pot. We'll recap everything that is inside of the pot. And we don't need that much stock for today. I'm not trying to make any leftover stock. I only want an amount of stock that would be enough for my pot of beans today. And so I really want to be careful so as not to have too much liquid inside of the pot at the moment. Okay, so we just want to make sure that all of the turkey necks, all of the bones are nice and covered. And if you have any leftover bones, this would be a really nice way of using it up. But everybody, in this kind of cooking, it is so essential that you use something like smoked turkey necks, something like, something smoked, something that really contributes that flavor into the final dish. Chef, when buying necks, hocks, or bird feet, if they look pretty frosted over, should we just pass? Serena, if they're frozen and they look frosted over, honestly, that's still totally fine because the smoky flavor is going to be there still, and they'll still be just as collagen-y to be able to give you a nice gelatinous broth. So I think it's going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this pressure cooker pot, my friends. Once again, all that we did, we put all of our vegetable scraps inside of the pot. We have our onion scraps, my bell pepper scraps, my celery scraps, my turkey necks, and my bay leaves. And so it's going to give us this really delicious, super aromatic stock with which to make the red beans and rice. This is not a side dish. Red beans and rice is a main event, my friends, and we have to give it the love and the respect that it desires. Now, doing a combination of ham hocks and turkey necks would be able to yield something really exceptionally delicious. I'm not going to be going that far. I'm not going to be going that crazy today, but we're still going to end up with a lovely stock. Slippy, you ask me, opinions on liquid smoke, chef. My opinion on liquid smoke is that it tastes like liquid smoke. A lot of people say they can't tell the difference. I find that you can very easily overdo it with liquid smoke, and I would much rather just try something under the broiler rather than use liquid smoke. So Slippy, I'm not the craziest about it. It tastes like liquid smoke. It doesn't taste like an actual smoke thing. Okay, so that's all ready to go. And everybody, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set the pressure cooker on for about 50 minutes or so. Just going to go ahead and grab that. I'm going to go ahead and plug that bad boy in. Lock it in place. And 50 minutes, and it will be ready and perfect for my uses today. And also, for some reason, it did not turn on. Hello. Thank you. 50 minutes, high pressure, or as long as we feel like it. And so everybody, the goal is to be able to get the collagen in the turkey, to be able to transform into gelatin, to dissolve into the liquid, and to be able to extract all of that amazing, amazing flavor out of our aromatics outside of our vegetable scraps. Okay. Have I ever tried vegan burger meat, and how was your experience with it? So, Iskia, I actually have a very optimistic answer for you, and that is, I love black bean burgers. They don't feel like an actual patty. There's nothing meat-like about them, but I love the crunch of a black bean patty, and I love the creaminess inside of a black bean patty. So I really, really, really like black bean patties. And then as far as impossible meat goes, I think impossible meat it's really, really close to the actual thing. That is one of those things that is best suited for something like a ground meat, something suited for a burger where it's heavily dressed up. I really do quite like it, actually, so those can be really yummy. Man, now that I have a food processor, making black bean patties is actually realistic and possible for me to do. Because normally black bean patties, it's like a lot of work hand chopping everything to get to the right consistency. The fact that I have a food processor, we could do some black bean patties, absolutely. And there's another reason why that would be good. That's because it's really difficult to actually make any decent burgers in a home setting. Pre-ground supermarket ground meat, it is super, super finely ground and becomes like a meat paste instead of like a ground meat. It's not pebbly. And so you get very tough burgers, very dry ones that constrict over on themselves. And so it's really difficult to make a good burger in a home setting unless you have freshly ground meat that was coarsely ground. Black bean patties might actually just be objectively better in a home setting as a result. And so I think that sounds good. Everybody, when we cook at home, of course, as always, we clean as we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put away my turkey next. I'm gonna go ahead and put away a couple of things that we have no use for today. And so today's stream is gonna be a really simple one. We just gotta cook some sausage. We gotta cook up the Trinity. And there is one vegetable scrap that I completely forgot about that I think we could actually probably include, which is a few cilantro stems. But the fact that my pressure cooker is already going, we're just gonna go ahead and forget about those. I have some cilantro. I wanted to use up the cilantro. You don't see a lot of cilantro in Cajun Creole cooking, but because I had some, I just wanted to be able to garnish my red beans and rice with it, just to give it a little bit of extra freshness, just to give it some extra herbaceousness. You can use fresh, you can just use fresh herbs in a lot of different contexts, even if it doesn't come from that original cuisine. Okay, so cilantro I'm gonna be going ahead and using later on. We can see you in the walls with this new setup, super shiny and reflective. Slippy, that's not a great thing. We'll go ahead and fix that at some point or another. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and have a little sip of water, so please forgive me. Also, thank you for noting that it was clean. I cleaned it very recently. I wiped down all the walls myself. Okay, so all that we have going at the moment, guys, is the stock for the beans themselves, right? So we're gonna get it nice and delicious. We're going to get it really, really aromatic and flavorful. And so we have very little prep that we need to do today. We need to slice up some sausages. We gotta make the Trinity. We have to go ahead and make our spice mix as well. So let's go ahead and get started with our spice mix. Okay, so as far as my spices go, spices is a bit of a strong word because all that we're really going to be using is fresh herbs, my friends. Okay, so the bay leaves we no longer need, but what I will need is some dried thyme. I'm going to go ahead and find some right now. And so, after my last experience with using fresh thyme, I think I might become a dried thyme purist because fresh thyme is truthfully one of the biggest pains in the asses I've ever experienced in my life. Having to pluck out all of those leaves was awful. Now, putting in a little bit of fresh thyme and then taking it out after, that's a very nice way to go about it because, you don't have to go ahead and pluck off all those leaves. In my case though, I have a really lovely spice grinder. I'm gonna be grinding up my sage leaves. I'm gonna grind up my thyme leaves as well, and I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. Iskia, you said I got a lot of time on my hands? You get one. Everybody is allowed one time joke, one time pun, and then after the fact, you're done. You're done and never again. Okay, it'll never happen again. So, let's go ahead and get some dried thyme. And so everybody, super important, don't overdo it with your seasonings for something like red beans and rice. Don't overdo it for Cajun Creole cooking. It is a lot more minimalistic than people give it credit for, okay? So really, really, really seriously, you don't want to go ahead and overdo it. In terms of already ground sage, you might want like half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of sage. Okay? You're not supposed to be spice maxing here. You're supposed to have the flavor of the meat. You're supposed to have the flavor of the beans, the flavor of the hot sauce and the acidity and the herbaceousness. You're not supposed to be putting in half a can of, your favorite Cajun Creole seasoning mix. That is not what Cajun Creole cooking is about, and that is a huge misconception that people have. They make, Cajun pasta this, Cajun this, and it's all just Cajun seasoning on everything. And that is not, again, what Cajun Creole cooking is always about. So, thyme and sage, I'm going to go ahead and get a bit of it out. Right, and this, once again, is just to go ahead and give it that extra herbaceous element to make it really, really nice and delicious. So, I'm going to make a bigger batch of it than I would probably like for my entire pot of beans. Again, I only have 2 cans of beans here. So, again, I'm just going to make more because I don't want to go back in and have to grind in a little bit of extra. And then if I have some left over, then I have some left over. Now, as for the sage, the only thing is, these are whole sage leaves for some reason. I have to go ahead and quickly just pick out the stems. Make sure that none of the stems get in. They're not going to grind up the best. The stems are not going to really soften up quite as much as the leaves will. Okay, so I'm just going ahead and I'm making sure that I'm processing all of that up, my friends. Getting rid of as much of that stem as humanly possible. Okay, and we could probably get away with a little bit more sage leaf. So once again, just going back through it and getting rid of all of my sage stems, my friends. Getting them out of here, getting them thrown away, and then I'm just going to grind this bad boy up. Out you go. That's just like a nicely dried leaf. Any more stems that we got to get rid of? I think that's going to be plenty. So we got some sage, we got some thyme, and I'm going to make more spices than I actually need, for the entire dish. Just so that if we do need extra, we always have that ability. And last but not least, everybody, my pepper grinder broke, so I'm going to have to grind down the black pepper with my fresh herbs as well. Not ideal because I would like to ideally fry my black pepper, but I also need the extra volume inside of my spice grinder. So, adding in a few things of black pepper directly inside. And then I'm going to go to my spice grinder, everybody. I have a nice, cute little electronic spice grinder. I'm going to grind this all up and get a really, really beautiful powder. And that is going to be our seasoning for this pot of rice and beans, for this pot of red beans and rice, rather. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime while we're getting all this stuff done? I'm going to just go ahead and wipe out my spice grinder because it has some spices from the last time that we cooked in it. So I just want to get rid of all that. I want to go ahead and wipe that away, my friends. Get that out of here, get that done with. And then we can be on our way. And as always, everybody, if you have any cooking questions whatsoever, it can be about this dish, it can be about something else. You are always welcome. Please, please, please ask me at any point in time. Because my goal is to be able to teach all of you how to be able to cook at home. How much time will this take to cook, chef? Okay, Ellie, you get one. That's it. I'm not even going to entertain your answer. Unless that was a question, rather. Unless it was a legitimate question, in which case, you just have to ask it again. Without the time pun involved. But I have a feeling that you only ask that specifically to try and get to me. Chef, have I ever used those herbs du Provence that are just like holes in scissors? Oh, herb de leafers. I don't know what an herb de leafer is. Chew, excuse me, I had some paprika go up my nose. No, I've never used one of them because ultimately your hands are a little bit easier. The tools, they tend to take out some of the really, really thin stems. Your fingers are the best at actually being able to pluck away the thin stems because those tend to be quite woody as well. So, sage, thyme, as well as some black peppercorns, and I'm just going to go ahead and grind this up, my friends. I'm going to grind it up until it's a nice fine powder, and then we're going to go ahead and use that for a pot of red beans and sausage today. So, where's my closest outlet? I think this is my closest outlet, and I'm going to have to probably hold this up by hand as I grind this thing into oblivion. Come on, buddy. Out you go. Out you go. This outlet is it needs a little bit of pushing, and it's all good. Okay. Grind it up. Guys, if you don't have an electric spice grinder, it's just a coffee grinder. Please invest in one. It goes such a long way. They're so much easier to use than a mortar and pestle for like a powder. And that's what I'm looking for. I am looking for a powder today. I want a nice, clean, delicious, smooth pot of red beans today. So, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. Get it all ground up, my friends. Get it ground up. Grind it up, grind it up, grind it up, grind it up. And let's see how we did. Almost done. We just want to have no fibers. We want to have no big pieces. So just grind it all up, guys, and let it do its thing. And already I can smell the pressure cooker pot going. I can smell those really, really delicious turkey necks, guys. It's so smoky. It's so lovely. Okay, how do we do? Let's go ahead and take a look. I think that is going to be just fine for my purposes today. It all went up my nose just now. Once again, I gotta be careful not to get too close to spices that are just grinded because all of the powder is still up in the air and everything. Okay, that beeping has told us that the pressure cooker has finally built up pressure. Again, 40 to 50 minutes. You should be always making your own homemade stocks when you can. It's going to go ahead and give us so much flavor. So, let's go ahead and get my lovely spices dumped out. Let's get them all into my bowl. Oh, gosh, it actually seems like we didn't get everything. There was a few pieces that never got fully ground up. I think I'm gonna have to actually just go back inside. We really don't wanna have them inside of our final product. Serena, thank you so much for stopping by. It was lovely to have you. So, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go ahead and grind it up until it is fully ground up, my friends. We don't want any lingering pieces. We don't want any of that stuff. We don't want any of that nonsense. And now my outlet is being super, super annoying again. There you go. And grind it up. Grind it up, grind it up. Ah. Just get it all done. Get it all processed. Nice and easy. Okay, I think that's gonna be good. I think that's gonna be perfect for my uses today. And now let's go ahead and dump that out one more time. Once again, everybody, super simple. Just some black pepper, just some sage, and just some thyme. Cajun Creole cooking. It is about herbaceousness. It is about good quality produce. It is so much meat, but above all else, it is not about drowning things in spices. And I don't know where that misconception started. I don't even know how that began. This idea that you're always using this one singular homogeneous Cajun Creole spice mix. Honestly, that Cajun Creole spice mix, what it is used for, I believe it is for blackening, right? It is for the specific technique of putting those spices onto a piece of fish and then grilling it until it's super, super charred. But it is not used in all of these different contexts that people think that it does. Okay, so once again, thyme, sage, and black peppercorns. Got it all nice and ground up. We're not going to be necessarily using all of this today. I just want to have more rather than less, just in case we need to add in a little bit of extra. Okay, I can go ahead and put my spice grinder away because we have no use for that at the moment. And I can put away my sage leaves and my thyme as well. Everybody, once you're done with an ingredient, put it away immediately. Free up as much countertop space for yourself as possible, right? Because you want to stay nice and clean. You want to stay nice and organized at all times. So, getting that put away, getting that put out of there. Excellent. Next, what do we have to go ahead and get done? We have a lot of vegetable prep in our future. We have to do the onions, we have to do the bell pepper, we have to do the celery, and that is going to be building up what is called the trinity, my friends. The trinity in Cajun Creole cooking is super, super, super important. You see it be used everywhere you go. That is what is actually ubiquitous to Cajun Creole cooking. And everything, every single stew, and every single soup, and every single sauce, and every single saute, and in every single stock, you will see bell pepper, onion, and celery. In my case, I'm going to be doing it with jalapeno today because I have some, and I also have these baby serranos. I have it, so I may as well use it. You just want to make sure that you have a type of green pepper. If you have Anaheims, if you have poblanos, those could be really cool additions as well instead of the green bell pepper. You just don't want to be using a red bell pepper. You don't want an orange pepper. You don't want a yellow pepper because they tend to be less sweet. They tend to be more sweet and less vegetal tasting. You need that vegetal tasting quality, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a garlic press as well as my bench scraper. Always have that ready to go whenever you cook. Grab that bad boy, excellent. And so we're going to go ahead and begin doing our vegetable prep for today, my friends. And so we're going to begin with doing the onion, and we're going to save about 1/4 of this onion for the rice instead. 3/4 of the onion will instead be going towards the aromatic base for my beans. Does anybody have any questions for me? So, onion. We got this onion right here, and what we're ultimately looking for, my friends, is a really, really, really fine dice. This is an aromatic trinity here. The goal of this is to melt into the sauce. The goal of this is to melt into the dish. The goal, for me at least, is not to bite into massive chunks of pepper and onions. Now, this is entirely preferential. I see some, Cajun and Creole cooks, they do cut up really, really big pieces of bell pepper, celery, and onions. In my case, though, I'm looking for a very, very fine dice. The finer that you cut it, okay, the more it becomes a part of the greater whole, the more that it imparts its flavor into something else, and the less of a chance that you have to bite into it. If you want to bite into sauteed onion, be my guest. If you want to bite into sauteed bell pepper, be my guest. But in my kitchen, I set the rules, and I want a beautifully finely diced onion, and I want a beautifully finely diced trinity. Can I please get a yes, chef, from everybody watching, please, and thank you. So, we're going to begin getting that ready. We're going to begin processing everything. We're going to begin prepping it all. And this is the bowl that I'm going to set aside specifically for my onions for the rice. We're going to just save 1/4 of that onion because I want it like a butter rice. I want it with a little bit of extra flavor. I want it with some extra alliuminous to it. Okay? So let's go ahead and begin prepping that now, my friends. We want a fine dice, not a small dice, a fine dice. And so in order to achieve a fine dice, I'm going to first tie up my hair and put on some gloves, just to protect my dainty little hair, or my dainty little hand, excuse me, from eczema. Glove on up. Let's go ahead and put those on. And so it's going to be the same technique that I show off here all the time. It's just going to be a fan motion. We're going to fan it out. We're going to fan it out really, really nice and thin. And then we're going to go ahead and dice it up, my friends. So, onion, nice sharp knife as always. Also, that was not enough yes chefs. That was not a yes chef from everybody watching. If you already said it, you don't have to say it again. But I want to see one from absolutely everybody. Okay? So, onion. Go ahead, really, really thinly fan it out, my friends. You want to have the root of the onion attached, okay? And thinly, thinly, thinly fan it out. So, going in, fan it out. Going in, fan it out. Going in, fan it out. You want to have these slices as close to each other as physically possible, okay? Because the goal is for this onion to be cut up so finely that it melts into the final dish, that it melts into the pot of beans, so that it becomes really, really nice and flavorful, my friends. So, fan it out, 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 fan it out. Beautiful. Come take a look. Right? You can see that it's barely holding to itself. And then everybody, to really, really ensure that we get super, super fine pieces, all that I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to put my hand on top, flat hand, not your fingertips, and I'm going to make a few horizontal incisions all the way through. That's 1, and that's 2. Pull it out, and that's going to be 3. Right, everybody? So, we have all of that ready to go. The onion is just about ready to fall apart, but it's still holding up to itself. And then thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice all the way through, my friends. Because this is now the fine dice of our dreams. This is going to be the onion that I'm going to go ahead and set aside for the rice today. And then the rest of it is going to be used towards my trinity. Come take a look. Beautiful fine dice, nice and easy, and this wasn't particularly technical, right? Anybody can do this, just go slow at first. You want to go nice and slow if you're not used to doing this yet. Some of you might be a little bit more experienced, in which case I don't have to tell you how to do this, but go nice and slow, nice fine dice, my friends. I want this onion to melt in. It's going to contribute so much lovely sweetness. You ever mix it up with a thick slice? No, Taza, never. I would never do such a thing. Just go slow. Go slow, especially once you get to the end of it. It starts to fall apart a little bit. Thin, 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 right? Hello? There you go. Thank you. Thinly, thinly, thinly. Beautiful. Thinly, 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 thinly. Excellent. That is my onion half. And so, I'm going to go ahead and set that aside with my bench scraper. because this cutting board is not filled up yet. And we're going to go ahead and do the same exact thing, my friends, to the other half of the onion. I'm giving this a lot of time and I'm giving this a lot of patience because I want this to come out really, really well. I'm not rushing this process. I'm not just immediately jumping into it, big chunks and then into the pot, because it's not going to do anything. Guys, your produce can become flavor. Your produce can become the base of the flavor for something like this if you know what you're doing. So, once again, we're going to go back in and make a bunch of super thin parallel incisions, my friends, and keeping it attached by the root of the onion. Parallel, 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 just like that. Okay? Then everybody, once again, horizontal incisions, going all the way in, just in the interest of pursuing the finest dice humanly possible. Okay? And then once again, my friends, all that we go ahead and do, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, thin slice, just like so. Go ahead, slice it up, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. We're going nice and slow. We're taking our time, my friends. We're being nice and patient with this process. And by the end of it, you're going to be rewarded with a beautiful pot of beans. Do not sleep on red beans and rice. They have so much flavor. They have so much depth. Okay? And it can be so simple out of such simple ingredients. I love Cajun Creole cooking. We're going to go back in and just really, really ensure that everything is cut accordingly. I make this look so easy. Well, Shy Chica, the reason why this looks easy is because I've done it a lot. It will get easier the more that you do it. Practice makes perfect, and good practice with good form will be able to do it well. So just follow the right technique. If you have any questions about like the technique, about the hand grip, about the hand positioning, just go ahead and ask me. Okay. Perhaps a bit odd, but I use an apple slicer to get it roughly chopped, but a solid technique. So hello, the reason why I don't actually love that as a technique is because something like the apple slicer, it really, really aggressively chops it down, and it's a little bit dull. So you might increase your risk of crying, but if your goal is to just be able to get this done quickly, as fast as possible, and you want big chunks in something, that'll be super fine. Another thing to keep in mind though, we're not chopping. We're slicing with a really sharp blade. We crush a lot less of the cells of the onion, and that leads to it holding up a lot better as it cooks. When you have it crushed with a really, really dull blade, it tends to release a lot more water. Now, that doesn't matter as much when we're talking about big chunks, as you are in this case, but that's why we're not using something like a food processor for this, right? Because a food processor, it's not going to give us as nice sharp cuts as a really good knife will. Okay, everybody, I got a jalapeno. Do you need a jalapeno? No. Why am I using a jalapeno? Because that's what I have at home. My goal is to use up all of my existing produce inside of my fridge before I go ahead and buy new ones, right? So I have this jalapeno. I want that heat. I want that spice. So I'm going to be keeping all of the seeds inside. And everybody, all that I'm going to go ahead and do is just really, really thinly cut this up into some nice little strips. Slice it up, slice it up, slice it up, slice it up, nice and thin, nice and thin, nice and thin, nice and thin. Just like so. And this is basically going to be also doing what the bell pepper is doing, except with a little bit of extra heat. The green jalapeno, it still has that vegetal flavor, right, of something like the bell pepper, except it just adds in a little bit of extra heat, my friends. So going ahead, really, really thinly slicing it up. Thinly slicing it, thinly slicing it, thinly slicing it. Excellent. Beautiful. Then we're just going to go ahead and cut this just like we did the onion, my friends. We're going to go ahead and stack up all of these lovely little batons and get a super, super, super fine dice. Once again, the goal of this is to melt into the final product and to become one with the final product. Not for us to have chunks of jalapeno inside of this. So grab your little stack of batons. The cucumbers look good. These are not cucumbers, Kaze, but close enough. They're all vegetables. It'll be fine. You can put cucumbers in your red beans and rice if you really wanted to. Can't tell you it'll be good, but you could if you wanted to. So just like that. Nice, thin, small, fine dice, my friends. Just like so. That's one of those little stacks, and let's go ahead and do the next stack of my jalapeno. Okay, I want some flavor in there. I want some of that extra heat. So the jalapeno is going to go amazing in this, even if it's not used all the time in Cajun Creole cooking. Love how these scallions look. Okay, welcome on in, LFK. It is lovely to have you. Slice it up, my friends. Slice it up, slice it up, slice it up, slice it up. Get it done. Get it processed. And again, this is the heart and the soul of Cajun Creole cooking. All right, we've kept all of the seeds in for that extra heat. It'll be delicious inside of the final product. But the Trinity, you see it everywhere. You see it be used absolutely everywhere, my friends. So, small dice of my jalapeno. And because of how much jalapeno we have, honestly, we might only need one side of bell pepper extra. This is a lot of jalapeno by volume. So, all that I'm going to do, everybody, all that I'm going to go ahead and do really quickly is just take this bell pepper and shave it down the side, and then the rest of this I'm going to go ahead and keep for another usage in the future, okay? And we're going to cut this just like we did the jalapeno. We're going to first cut this up into batons, and then we're going to go ahead and dice it. You said this is the first stream I've caught of yours in a new place. It looks great. Why, thank you, LFK. I appreciate it. So, take it, thinly slice it, thin strips. Matchsticks, my friends. Matchsticks, matchsticks, matchsticks. Get it done, get it sliced. Just like so. Perfect, beautiful, excellent. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same exact thing, which is just take it, stack up all of these lovely little batons, and dice it up. We don't want too much green pepper. We want to have roughly everything in the same proportion. Celery to onions to pepper, right? And you could have so much creativity. You could have fun with this. You don't have to use a green bell pepper. You could do any kind of green chili. Okay, you could do poblanos, you can do Anaheims. There's so many different varieties of green chilies with a lot of different flavors out there. But ultimately, green peppers will always have that vegetal quality to them. And that is what we want. Maybe not shishitos though. I think that'd be interesting to do this with shishitos. Shishitos are just too expensive to justify doing something like this with. So, green bell peppers. Nice and cut up. Gonna go ahead and set that onto my plate. And everybody, last but not least, let's go ahead and get some celery done. And this is gonna be the final component of the Trinity. This is going to give us an extra added element of herbaceousness and freshness. Can I use the unripe Carolina Reapers? Okay, Tarina, all right. Sure, if your heart really desires it. You just want something with that green vegetal flavor. You guys are really testing me out when I say you can use anything that you want here. So going ahead and just slicing up my celery. And this was celery that I already had just sitting in my fridge. Didn't have to go out and buy it today. And that is also the beauty of this kind of a dish, my friends. Red beans and rice. It's so simple. It uses such cheap little ingredients. It is incredibly accessible, and it is so delicious for what it is. Okay? Using my shoulder to scratch my eyeball so that I don't touch it with my jalapeno gloves. The one time I've actually remembered to put on gloves while cutting spicy peppers. Okay, get them in there, and just slice up the celery into these little strips. Slice them up into strips, slice them up into strips, slice them up into strips. Nice and flat, nice and evenly cut, my friends. And that is exactly what we were looking for. Excellent, beautiful. Next, same exact idea as before. I'm not going to go ahead and cut these up into perfect matchsticks, even if we do have some pieces that are slightly wide. We're not going to go that crazy with it. As long as we have a nice thin slice, my friends, it's going to be perfect and it's going to come out delicious. Okay, so going back in there, stacking these bad boys up, and just dice it. Thin, but I want thin. I don't want chunks of celery. Everybody, I want this super thinly sliced. Okay, this is the most important one to make sure that gets cut small. You do not want chunks of celery. Chunks of celery, out of all the different vegetables that we have here, these will be the crunchiest. These will be the ones that will stand out the most if you have big pieces of them. So thinly slice them, my friends. Thinly, paper thin if you physically can. Okay, this is the biggest one that I want to make sure that melts in. I love celery, it can be so delicious, but there are very few things in life that are as unpleasant as biting into a massive chunk of raw, crunchy celery inside of a hot stew. That is not what I like. I want my celery to be nice and tender, everybody. So, thinly slice it. Super important. Just like so. Look at that, beautiful. You want it to all melt in to the final dish. Yeah, I hate biting into raw chunks of celery in something. It is just so dissonant. It immediately just fills your mouth with the flavor of celery. You are an amazing cook. Thank you, Mr. Blackstar. Also, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. So keep slicing, guys. This is the one that you want to go all out on. The celery is the one that you want to be relentless with. Okay? Super, super thinly as you possibly can. I'm going to go back through it just once more to make sure that I have no massive chunks of celery visible. Again, this stuff we want it to all cook down, and we want it to all get nice and soft. Also, I don't know why Moobot sometimes acts up. It doesn't immediately respond. You might have to type it in again. So I apologize for that. So everybody, this is it. Really, really simple. This is the basis of all Cajun Creole cooking. This is the trinity: onions, celery, bell pepper. In my case, bell pepper plus jalapeno. That is my own touch. But this UC be used in every single Cajun Creole soup and stew. This is how you make something taste Cajun Creole. It's not about the spice mix. It's about the trinity, my friends. It is about your choice in vegetables. Okay, so gonna go ahead and set that aside. And last but not least, my friends, it will not be Cajun Creole cooking without a bunch, and I do mean a bunch of garlic. For it to be real, true Cajun Creole cooking, we want what looks like and feels like too much garlic, but there's no such thing. So going ahead, I'm gonna have this many cloves of garlic. I'm gonna go ahead and put this bad boy away. And all that I'm gonna do, everybody, is I'm just gonna take some of these peels out, get them out of here, get them out of sight, get them out of mind. Ugh. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and pluck them off. Pluck all of these lovely little cloves of garlic. There you go. And how many cloves do we have here? This is roughly, 5, 6 cloves of garlic. I love garlic. I love garlic to death, and I'm going to be showing you the best way to process it. So all that we're going to do, my friends, is take it and smash it down with a bench scraper. And what we're accomplishing now is just peeling the skin from the rest of the clove, because the skin doesn't get crushed, but the clove does. The skin is so dry that it completely wraps around the clove. So by crushing it this way, you get to soften up the clove a little bit. The skin is able to naturally separate really, really easily without a lot of effort. So all that we go ahead and do now is we just peel up the garlic. Right? You don't have to go at it with a paring knife. Just give it a little crush, give it a little action, and then it'll be ready for you. It just pops right out. If you did it well, it'll pop right out, my friends. Just pops on out. Out it goes. Just pops on out. Come on. Thank you. Just pops on out. There we go. And just got a few more to go ahead and peel up. And then everybody, as always, I hate chopping garlic by hand. I always advocate for the use of a garlic press, and that's exactly what we will be using together today. And then after this is done, we'll go ahead and slice up the sausages. We're going to begin frying the sausages because we want to get all of that delicious sausage fat out of them and into the rest of the dish. And that will be nice and delicious. So, almost done, almost done, almost done. Okay, that does seem to be all of my garlic cloves. And now the last thing that we have to do, everybody, is just cut off the dried off bit on the bottom. This is the root of the garlic. We don't really want to be eating this. We have nothing that we gain from doing so. Okay, so go ahead, cut it off, get them all out of here. Just like so, nice and easy. And now everybody, all that we're going to go ahead and do is just put this through my favorite kitchen tool, the garlic press. Because as always, cutting garlic by hand, it is sticky, it is cumbersome, it is not what you want to be doing, especially for something like a minced garlic. A garlic press just does such a nice, easy job of it. So if you do not own one, you have to go ahead and invest in one, and I would love to hear another yes, chef, please and thank you. So, garlic, crush it, beautiful. Garlic, crush it, excellent. Garlic, crush it. Nice. Just get them all pressed. Get them all nice and crushed. Garlic press propaganda? That's right, Kaze. I am here to influence all of you. I am here to leverage all of my clout to convince you all to buy a garlic press. This stream was sponsored by Big Garlic Press behind the scenes. I have single-handedly boosted garlic press sales by who knows how much. Look how quick it is. Look how easy it is. No nonsense with using salt on the cutting board to mince garlic. None of that, right? We got it all out of there. We got it all done. Nice and pressed. Nice and easy. A few more little guys that have to just go ahead and get pushed through one last time. Beautiful. Into the bowl they go. That's it. That's all that it takes, my friends. And so, this also isn't the best garlic press. This is my roommate's. I'm going to go ahead and buy a new one at some point or another. But there you go. That is a bunch of garlic. It's all set. It's all ready to go. And the best time to clean your garlic press is now, my friends, because you don't want to let it dry. You don't want to let all that garlic dry into those little holes. It's going to get impossible to clean later on. So now is your best time to clean this bad boy off. Take it with a brush, with a little kitchen brush. Just poke out the holes. Poke them out, poke them out, poke them out, poke them out. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this into my dishwasher. Get all that done, get all that put away, as well as a couple of dishes that I neglected to do before the stream. So my apologies. And so everybody, that means all of the vegetable prep is done. The majority of the prep work is actually done for today. And the last thing that we're going to need to do together is just going to be slicing up the sausage. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my handy dandy little bench scraper, my favorite kitchen tool, use it, get everything inside of the scrap bowl, right, inside of the waste bowl, so that there's nothing remaining on the cutting board. Last thing that we got to do, guys, is just slice up the sausages. We're going to be frying the sausages. I believe actually now would be a really good time to start heating up the pan for today. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. This is my beautiful, my lovely little stainless steel Mauvais pan. Okay, we're going to make sure that we're always heating this up on a nice medium-low, my friends. Heat it up on medium-low, heat it up on a low heat, because you want to have even heat conduction. A lot of people, they take it, they slam it onto max heat. You got hot spots and you have cool spots, and food will stick to the cool spots. So super, super, super low heat, my friends. Really, really low heat. And then I'm actually going to be adding in a little bit of olive oil. Okay, and this might be odd considering that we're doing the sausages in here. But the reason why we do a little bit of oil is to give them a bit of a head start. The sausages, before its own natural fat melts out, okay, they'll end up being stuck to the pan without any additional lubrication. So they need just a drop of oil. But the goal, by frying the sausages, is to extract all of its fat, my friends. And in the fat that we extract from it, we're going to be able to get the vegetables frying inside of the sausage fat. So it's important that we use something like bacon fat, like pork fat, like olive oil. We don't want to use canola oil. We don't want to use vegetable oil. We want to use good, delicious oils, because it's all going to be going into the final pot of beans, my friends. Okay, only thing I'm going to do, I've realized I think my camera angle is kind of whack. So I'm going to maybe get this bad boy a little closer and a little bit lower so that you all can see what's going on. So I'm sorry for making you all dizzy for a second. I just want to give this a bit of an adjustment. And we can give that a good old zoom in, I believe. That is the opposite of what I intended. So sorry about doing last second camera adjustments. Normally I'd hate doing anything like this. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you all the best possible show. Okay, how does that look here? Excuse me. Ugh, gotta give that another slight adjustment. And I think that's gonna be more than fine. Great, so all that we're doing, everybody, we're just heating up a little bit of olive oil. Again, this is just to make sure that the pan is nice and lubricated so that the meat does not immediately stick to the pan. Proteins, they want to stick to metal, and so a little bit of oil is going to go a long way. We're going to go ahead and cut up our sausages. I got 3 lovely sausages for today. I have some hot Italian sausages. This is not super traditional to use inside of red beans and rice, but it is what I had at home. The most traditional thing that you can always do, my friends, is to use up ingredients that you already have. 3 sausages. Now, what kind of pieces do I want to cut them in? I want to cut them into coins. Do not cut them too thin. If you cut them too thin, your sausages, they will get so dry and basically inedible by the time that this thing is actually finished. You want to get pieces that are not so thick that they're really, really chewy, but not so thin that they completely become dry. So I want to get maybe something in this range of thickness. Let's do something like that, my friends. And it's also going to shrink down as it cooks, so keep that in mind. I left these sausages out at room temperature for a little bit. Ideally, you would keep it as cold as possible because it becomes the easiest to slice when it's cold. Okay? Oh, come on, buddy. Excuse me. Thank you. So come take a look. Some lovely little coins of sausage. And everybody, as always, we only heat it up on a nice low heat. Nice low heat. Why do we not do a high heat? Because again, we will develop hot spots and cool spots. I don't want to overcook the sausage. I don't want to burn the sausage, and I don't want to burn the spices inside of the sausage. I just want to slowly cook it so that it's still juicy on the inside, but we melt out all of its beautiful fat. And that beautiful fat, my friends, it's all going to go back into the pot of red beans. So, going ahead, slicing it up, slicing it up, slicing it up. This might be way too much sausage for today, but if anything, we'll just take some out and snack on it as we go. That's all. Nothing crazy. No crazy amount of prep work here. All that we did was just cut it up into some nice little coins. And I'm going to go ahead and get these onto my sheet tray so that we can put them into the pan. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? And if we do not, then we can just begin cleaning while the sausages are frying. Today, again, a really simple stream. Not a lot for us to do today. After this, we just have to wash the rice, slice the cilantro, saute our trinity. Okay? Oil is heating up nice and slowly. And that's really just about it. That's about all of the active work that we needed to do right here. Oh gosh, that is aggressively zoomed in. Maybe a little step back. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust the focus really quickly. Excellent. So once again, everybody, pan heating up nice and slow. We don't need this oil to be smoking hot. Again, if the oil is smoking hot, we're going to be burning the outside of the sausage before all of the fat can melt away. The goal is to get all of that sausage fat extracted, all that delicious pork fat, and then my onions, my bell pepper, my celery, they're all gonna fry inside of that delicious pork fat. So I think at this stage that we have hit the temperature that we need, my friends. So all I'm going to do is just distribute the oil, make sure it's nice and evenly spread out inside of the pan, that there's no spots that are left without it, just so that the sausage meat does not stick once we add it inside. Come on, buddy. All the way around, all the way around. That just slipped out of my hands for some reason. All the way. There you go. Thank you very much. And so let's just go ahead and lay in my lovely coins of sausage. You can barely hear the pan even make a single sound, my friends, and that is totally okay. We've been heating it up on low. We've been heating it up on medium low. I want to slowly extract the fat. Remember, there is a really good rule of thumb here, which is meat browns before fat melts. Meaning, on a high temperature, your meat will brown before the fat melts. And that is a problem. Because at that point, we would have overdeveloped the fond. We would risk burning the spices. Okay? And that is not what we are looking for. Stainless steel pan. And you're going to notice the sausage is not going to stick. It's going to come out perfect. And it's going to come out delicious. Okay? So all of my lovely little sausages, they're going to go inside of the pan. We're nestling them in. And so everybody, once you do add them in, you want to let them develop a crust on the bottom, and then they won't stick to the pan. Okay? But you don't want to start joiking them immediately. You start joiking them immediately, you start moving them around immediately, and then they're just going to try and stick, and they'll fall apart. So give them a second. And I really don't need to develop that much color on the sausages. The mirepoix, or rather the trinity, excuse me, not a mirepoix at all. It does not have carrots. So I'm okay with slightly overcrowding this pan. 2 sausages would have been ideal, honestly. I don't know why I got out 3, but that is going to be perfect. So all my sausages are inside of the pan. Again, the only goal now, guys, is just to melt out the fat. We want to melt out the fat nice and slowly. We want to get a little bit of color developed, and it's all going to come out nice and delicious. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? So, Shai Chica, you ask me, so no non-stick pan for the chef. I have cooked chorizo with non-stick. My answer for you is this. There is no reason to use non-stick if you heat this up correctly. Non-stick is very, very useful for things like eggs or for things like rice. Okay? But you could use a non-stick pan, but the reason why I wouldn't is because it has very uneven heat conductivity. Non-stick pans are made with cheap, thin aluminum. That cheap, thin aluminum does not evenly distribute heat inside of the pan at all. Additionally, you want a little bit of sticking to develop what is called fond. You need those proteins to dissolve and stick to the bottom of the pan so that they can brown. Okay, so I would actually advise you to not use a non-stick pan for this, absolutely. I hope that answers your question. I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple of things away into the fridge. Because everybody remember, when we cook at home, we absolutely must clean as we go. I can smell the sausage, and honestly guys, I have to say, Italian sausage and something like this is going to pair beautifully. Because think about what's in Italian sausage. A lot of sage. Hot Italian sausage already has sage inside of it, and we will be cooking with sage to be able to get my pot of red beans and rice. Okay? So, it's in there, it's frying along, it's doing its thing. This is a really chill stream today. Again, we're not juggling a million different activities. It doesn't have to stew for very long because we're doing canned beans, and then we're also doing the homemade stock inside the pressure cooker. Also, Vora, welcome on in. You like the microplastics from the non-stick pans? Checks out. That does make sense for you. That all makes sense. Okay, everybody, now we can hear it sizzling. Now we can hear that fat melting away. Because of the fact that we heat it up evenly, guess what? Nothing is sticking inside of the pan, even with only a little bit of oil. We did not need a crazy amount of oil at all. Nothing is sticking. That is the beauty of actually heating things up correctly, the way that it was intended to be. Okay? So many people, my friends, so many people, all that they do is they take it and they put the stainless steel pan on high heat, blast it all the way to the top for 2 minutes, they put on water and it splashes and they think it's ready because the water is dancing. It is not a good rule of thumb because you need it evenly heated, my friends. And for that, you need time. And that's why we heat it up nice and slowly. Just gonna make sure that the sausages are not exactly next to each other because they'll stick to each other and not the pan, that is. The fat is melting away, and that is exactly what I wanted, my friends. We want that fat to melt away. We want the fat to contribute to the final dish. The sausage meat itself, basically negligible. But the fat, that is where it's at, guys. So, slowly frying, and it's not going to take too long. Again, we want to make sure that the sausages are still a little bit undercooked on the inside. Because if they're too cooked, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be really, really dry by the end of it. We want to finish the stew. We want to finish the pot of beans with the sausages. But we really want to make sure that it still stays nice and moist. So we're not braising it. We're not cooking it down for a very long amount of time. And we don't want to develop too much color. Now will be the time that I flip it. Again, it does not need to be fully caramelized. It does not need a super deep brown crust on it, guys. And that is totally okay. Just gentle cooking is going to be your best friend in this case. Going around, flipping over each of my little sausages, flipping these bad boys over, and giving them some time to render out on the second side as well before we go ahead and take them out. Beautiful. They're cooking along. They're doing their thing, everybody. That's what we want to see. And you can see they have begun to fry in their own pool of fat. The pan is foaming up. The sausage is releasing a little bit of liquid. That's a very good indication of its doneness as well. Again, I do not care about developing a deep brown crust at this stage. The only thing that I care about is slowly melting out the fat, my friends. I'm going to go ahead and have a little sip of water. Excellent. Okay. It's all happening. It's all cooking, my friends. It's all coming together. It's all doing its thing. I wish I could get this camera to be a little bit more higher up. I'm going to have to buy a new tripod at some point, something really, really tall, something that can give us the camera angle that we want at some point inside of the future. Okay. I think this sausage is plenty cooked for now. Again, if it is undercooked on the inside, that is what we are looking for. I want to maintain as much of the juiciness of the sausage as possible. We did not need to develop a deep brown crust. The biggest goal was to melt the fat, my friends. Melt the fat, and that is going to be the fat of choice for my lovely vegetables today. So get that sausage out. Get him out of here. Get him out. Get him out. Get him out. Get him gone. We have no use for him at this stage. Goodbye, Mr. Sausage. And thank you for giving us your lovely fat. Thank you for giving us your lovely juices. And this is going to become the base of today's red beans and rice. So, that looks quite good. Okay, and you can hear that sizzling. Why is it still sizzling? It's because it still has a little bit of liquid inside of the pot. That's all the liquid that naturally released from the sausages. So, now the goal is to slowly cook down the trinity, everybody. My trinity of onions, of celery, of bell pepper. Okay, you see this everywhere in Cajun Creole cooking. It is essential in Cajun Creole cooking. This is used in just about every single stew and soup that you can imagine. So, let's go ahead and just dump it all in, my friends. All of it inside over a medium heat, and then this is going to take a while because we need to slowly cook the water out of the vegetables. The water needs to evaporate, and only then can it begin to fry. We don't need it to be super caramelized. We don't need it to be super deep brown today, but we do want some really, really good color developed, some really good flavor developed. So, adding it all in, my onions, my bell pepper, and my celery, but we don't add in the garlic. The garlic goes in just before we add in the wet components. Because if we add in the garlic now, the garlic would end up burning before everything else. So the order of operations matters. Bell peppers, onions, and celery, all of it inside, medium heat, my friends. Stir it around, make sure it's getting in there with the fat, and now begins the collapsing stage of the vegetables. Now begins the point where we collapse it, we cook out all of the liquid from inside of it. So in goes a nice generous amount of salt. Seasoning in layers is so important. The sausage is already salty. The onions and bell peppers and celery, they're not at all. So, a couple of nice, big, generous pinches of salt going directly inside. Stir it around. And now, listen how the sound has changed. It is no longer sizzling. It is no longer searing. It is no longer getting any color on it because we are now collapsing the vegetables, and as the vegetables collapse, they release their own liquid. So stir it around. The noise in the pan has all but died down, and that is okay. We're collapsing the vegetables. It is now boiling in its own juices effectively, and it is perfectly covered in all of that lovely sausage. So all that I'm going to do in this case is we can just grab a little lid. We can grab a lid just to throw on it to help steam the vegetables. That's going to accelerate the collapsing process. It's only going to take a minute or two with the lid on. And again, this might seem counterintuitive if you're thinking about like, oh, if the goal is for us to evaporate the liquid, but it really, really does matter. It matters because the steam goes up and it cooks the vegetables on top. Normally on a pan, it's only the vegetables that are on the bottom that are in contact with the hot oil that would actually be cooking. But by putting a lid on it, by steaming the vegetables on top, you steam them, you cook them, you collapse them, and they release their water. And the salt is going to help season them as well as pull out some additional moisture as well, my friends. So, lid on, put the lid on for just a few minutes. And if anybody has any questions, now would once again be a really good time to ask me. I'm gonna go ahead and do away with this. Put it away, get it out of here. And while that's going, everybody, we can go ahead and begin talking about the rice. We can begin washing the rice. We can talk about some of my rice methodology, and we can get into that in just a moment's time. Put a few things behind me as well. We no longer need any amount of olive oil whatsoever. And right now we're just steaming up the vegetables, and I'm just gonna go back inside of it and just stir it up. Again, in the interest of getting them all to cook down really, really evenly. Pat them back down, pat them back down. Put a lid on it and let them go and let them do their thing. Great, excellent. So, let's go ahead and talk about the rice really quickly. As you all may know, I am an advocate or an anti-advocate of rice cookers. Now, that is not to say that rice cookers by any means are bad. That is not what I'm trying to say here. But what I am trying to say instead, though, is that you don't need a rice cooker to make it good in a home setting. Okay, a lot of people, especially on the internet, have gotten accustomed to saying, you know, just get a rice cooker. Just get a rice cooker, it makes your life a lot easier. Especially if you live in a New York apartment, it can be difficult to find the space for a rice cooker, but my roommate insists on getting one, but that's okay. You do not need a rice cooker to be able to make delicious rice. I'm going to teach you the technique. I'm going to teach you the technique and I'm going to teach you the theory. And the theory that I'm showing you here can apply basically to any kind of rice, okay? As long as it's not things like a ribollio, like the kinds that you would use for something like a risotto, okay? So all that I'm going to go ahead and do, I have some rice. I believe this is some jasmine rice. This applies to long grain rice. This applies to medium grain rice, medium long grain, anything that you want, okay? Rice, putting it in. I'm not measuring. There are no measurements. We're only going to be roughly approximating everything, okay? So in it all goes, I don't know, this much rice. I mean, a nice rule of thumb is that like half a cup of rice is like a good big portion, right? This is a full cup just so that we have a little bit of extra at the end of it. Okay? Got that sorted, got that taken care of. I can put my rice away. And actually, before we continue with this, we could go back to the onions because guess what? My lovely trinity has indeed collapsed. You can see that it is cooking now in its own juices. You can see that it is steaming in its own liquid. And now the goal, to be able to actually fry it, to be able to really develop that flavor, my friends, to be able to develop that color, all of that liquid absolutely must evaporate. That liquid cannot stay. So many chefs will call this this actual stage sautéing. We're still not sautéing. There is no sautéing action to be found, my friends. All that's happening right now at the stage is we're evaporating the liquid. You cannot sauté things in the presence of significant moisture. The more moisture there is, the less things brown. Moisture directly inhibits what is called the Maillard reaction. Okay? It is why you can't, sear a steak in boiling water. You need to evaporate the liquid and the sausage fat, that olive oil will remain instead. So, all of my lovely vegetables, my onions, my celery, my bell pepper, and my jalapenos, they have collapsed. I'm just stirring it around one more time and make sure that you have no vegetables stuck to the sides of your pan. Pressing it all back down. And we're just waiting for that water to evaporate, my friends. And you will hear as it slowly becomes a sizzle again. Okay? So, back to the rice. All that we're going to do for this is we're going to fill this up to the top with some water, agitate it with our fingers, and rinse it off, rinse and repeat, over and over again until we have rinsed off most of the starch. Why do we wash rice? Well, a lot of people say that rice is dirty, but that's not really true, especially for commercially packed rice. It's mostly to be able to get rid of some of the excess starch so that the rice does not come out super, super, super sticky. Okay, so I got about a cup of rice here. All I'm going to go ahead and do is just put on a glove, agitate it with some water, do like 7 or 8 passes until the water runs nice and clean. So that it is not too sticky, so that it's not too starchy, because the beans are going to be nice and saucy. Purity filter, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. So everybody, in the meantime, while I'm washing the rice, this is a really good time to ask me any and all questions that you may have. And once again, if you would like to support the cooking show, my goal is to do this full-time one day, ! Patreon is the best way to go ahead and directly support me. So, all I'm doing, I'm washing up the rice. Washing it up, agitating it with my fingertips, rinsing it out, rinse and repeat. And at this stage, you don't really need to stir your vegetables too much. Only once it becomes a very, very loud, aggressive sizzle do you actually need to begin stirring it, because then you're actually worried about the vegetables sticking and burning at the bottom of the pan. But at the moment, it's good to go just as it is. So, what type of rice would this be, Chef? Basmati? Do I have any preferences? So this is just a jasmine rice. And honestly, it's not that I have a preference. It is that all rices are ultimately different. A lot of people in Cajun Creole cooking, they use Uncle Ben's. I don't like minute rice. I don't like the texture of minute rice. So probably just not that. But honestly, any medium to long grain rice will do. I'm not going to do an extra long basmati, honestly, because I want some softness to it. Really, really long grain rices, they tend to be a lot more granular than anything else. And so that would not be my ideal rice of choice for a dish like this. So I'm going ahead and I'm rinsing out all of the excess starch, my friends. Nice and simple. Getting it all out of there. Rinsing it out over and over until it runs nice and clear, and it seems to be running nice and clear. Now I can hear that sizzling. Let's go check on the vegetables. And they're beginning to get nice and beautiful and nice and browned. I should have probably stirred them a little bit sooner. I think my heat might have been a little bit too high, but that's okay. We're just gonna go back in there. We're gonna agitate it. Nothing burned quite yet. And if anything, all that we did was just develop some really beautiful fond on the bottom of the pot. So now, guys, medium, low heat at absolute most. Now the vegetables are finally browning. We've evaporated a lot of the excess liquid. They're cooking in the sausage fat. They're cooking inside of the olive oil as well. And now they're beginning to get a lot of really beautiful flavor. So going in there, really just making sure I'm scraping up the bottom. And it is okay for some of the vegetables to stick at the stage. That is totally fine because we'll be adding in our homemade stock. Okay, and that's going to be deglazing the pan for us. So make sure nothing is, once again, stuck to the sides. Press it all back down, nice and evenly, and let it keep cooking and let it keep doing its thing. We want to build that color, my friends. We want it to be nice and sauteed. So my pressure cooker is beeping. I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure now. So the stock has been done, the rice has been washed. The last thing that we got to do, my friends, is just strain out the water from the rice. Strain it out and let it sit straining. Okay. Ooh. The smell is amazing. I think I inhaled something up my nose again. It might have been like the savory, thyme, and so I feel like I have to sneeze. But just going back inside and mixing around all my lovely little vegetables. And soon enough, my friends, we'll get the garlic in there. We'll get some of our homemade stock in there. And you can see that the vegetables are picking up a lot of really beautiful color on them. That's the color from the sausage fat. That's the color from the spices from the sausage. And now these bad boys are just frying up till completion. And that's exactly what we're looking for. And so we'll let this go a little bit longer. Again, we don't need like super deep caramelization. We don't need this to be super deep brown. School of Rock and Roll, you asked, is rice common in the Russian kitchen? So the answer is, a lot of Russian households, they alternate their kasha, right? They alternate grechnevay kasha, kukuruzny kasha, manavay kasha, and risovay kasha. Basically, you would have a bunch of different staple grains, like rice, like buckwheat, like corn, and then you would have like a big pile of that with whatever you're eating. And so in my household growing up, rice wasn't as common, but we had it occasionally. So, my stock is made. I can smell how smoky it is. I can smell how delicious it is. And that is going to be, once again, contributing so much flavor into the pot of beans. I might not necessarily use all the stock that we made today. It might be too smoky for my purposes. And if it is, again, we do this incrementally. We can always add more stock, but we can't take any away. Okay? So, everything is frying up. Everything is frying up beautifully. Everything is getting nice and aromatic, my friends. And that is exactly what we want. This is what we're talking about. So there you go. That's all happening. And now this would be a good point to add the garlic. I don't think we need significantly more browning done onto my aromatics. I think at the stage they're going to be quite good to go as it is. So in goes my garlic. Again, we don't add garlic in the beginning of the process because if we did, the garlic would have ended up burning before everything else got nice and browned. So the garlic goes in now, and an aggressive amount of garlic. That is 5 to 6 cloves that I've just added in. Adding them in. and just letting them fry up as well, my friends. And remember, in the kitchen, one of the most important rules that you can keep in mind is that color equals flavor. We're caramelizing the sugars, we're browning the proteins. That is how you get some of those deep, deep roasted flavors in whatever it is that you make. So that's all going. That's all doing its thing. Stirring up the garlic often because, again, we don't want it to burn. It's all coming together. There you go. Smells pretty excellent at the moment. And again, it was just a trinity and it was just the homemade stock. I'm going to go ahead and grab that pot. And you can see, guys, look how cloudy it is. That is telling us that we have a really, really rich, we have a really gelatinous stock. You can see the viscosity of it. And that is exactly what we are looking for. That is going to give my pot of beans the flavor and the love that it requires. We're not using boxed chicken stock. We're not using box stocks. We're making our own homemade stock out of some smoked turkey necks. Smoked turkey necks, you can find them in so many different supermarkets. Ideally, you do that and a ham hock as well. But that is what's going to give a lot of love and a lot of character and a lot of flavor into my pot of beans, my friends. So, my vegetables, my onions, my celery, my bell pepper, my jalapeno, I'm going to say right now that they have fried for the right amount of time. We're going to go ahead and begin just straining out some of the stock to deglaze the pan. And by deglazing, we're just going to go ahead and dissolve any of the stuck sugars, any of the stuck proteins at the bottom of the pot. We're going to begin with just a few ladles. Begin with just a few ladles, and they go directly. Excellent. And guys, look at the beginning. Look at the beginning of all of these beans. This is what's going to give the beans flavor. We haven't added the beans yet. I know we're using canned beans, but we're still going to be showing them so much love. So all that you want to do, guys, is scrape up the pan. You add it in liquid. Now you get to dissolve the proteins back into the liquid. Now that you get to dissolve all the sugars back inside of the liquid. Take advantage of the liquid, and this is called deglazing. You do this when you sear the meats and you make a pan sauce. Okay? And now what is my goal? My goal is just to quickly soften up some of the vegetables before I add in the beans. Because the beans, they're already cooked inside of the can. We need to cook them longer so that the liquid reduces. But I don't want my celery to be raw. I don't want my onions to be raw. I want all of this to get nice and cooked. And guys, look how beautiful that pot looks. And that is still just before the beans. This is all the stuff that is going to give the beans the character and the love that they require. Okay? My homemade stock out of some turkey necks. All my vegetable scraps went in so that we didn't have to waste anything at all. And again, just going in and making sure that we are getting the full sides of the pan. Everything that can be deglazed will be deglazed by the end of it. Okay, that is the goal that we are striving for. And again, I'm being super, super, super conservative with the amount of stock that I've added in. If we add in too much stock all at once, we might have so much of that smoky turkey neck flavor that it could become unpleasant. The goal of this is, again, just for something really, really, really concentrated, but not overpowering. Oh, that smells excellent. You make risotto? I do make risotto, but at the moment we're not making risotto. If you'd like to see the full list of what we're making, you can always type in !menu. But we did the homemade turkey stock. We made our own trinity out of the onion, celery, bell pepper, and jalapeno. We added in some garlic. The spice mixture, the sage and the thyme, we'll add once the beans are in there. You don't want to cook those for too long, otherwise you do start losing flavor. Excellent. It's all coming together, my friends. And I would love to give this pot just a little taste. I want to see how it's coming along. I want to see how it tastes. Sunny Peach Crush, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. Let's give it a little taste. Oh, that's good. Oh, guys, that is delicious. Definitely no more seasoning, though. That is plenty of salt. I believe the smoked turkey necks were quite salty as well. Oh, guys. That is so delicious. And it's so simple. Again, it's just onions, bell peppers, celery, jalapeno, garlic, and the stock that we did, but it has so much flavor developed. That stock that we did, guys, that thing is crazy. That thing is crazy delicious. Oh, that's good. Is the transition from the old Twitch channel complete? I believe so. We're not going to be doing any more of the stream raids or anything. Oh, that is already looking incredible, my friends. So, again, all that I'm doing at the stage is I'm giving my celery and my bell peppers a bit of a head start. I don't want to bite into chunks of raw celery in the final product. I need the stuff to be soft. I need it to dissolve, essentially. I want to get these vegetables so mushy that they dissolve into the rest of the pot of beans. And for that, they need a head start because the canned beans are already cooked. Okay? If you were starting from raw soaked beans, then you would be totally okay to go. But in this case, we're not so lucky. They need that head start. And we're giving it to them. Cooking it all down. We'll add in more stock as needed if we need it. And you can already see, guys, you can already see how viscous it is becoming. That is because we started off with such an amazing stock. I know I keep saying it over and over again. I know that I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it really is just that important. It really is just that relevant. So here's what I'm going to be doing in the meantime. I'm going to prepare some rice. I'm going to add in another ladle of stock, and I'm going to let this stew on the other stove. So let's go ahead and get that done now. I'm going to set up my strainer. Get another ladle of that delicious homemade stock out of the smoked turkey necks. Beautiful. Get all that back into the pot. And I'm just going to be switching off my stove, transferring it over to this one. Because now my goal is going to be to start working on the rice. I'm going to be teaching you all how to make rice consistent, how to make it delicious, how to be able to do it so easily over the stovetop without needing to overcomplicate it. Okay, so I'm going to be doing mine a little bit fancier than usual. I'm going to be doing it with butter and onions, but normally I keep it really, really minimalistic. I'm going to go ahead and dump out all the water that's strained out of the rice. And all that I want to do is I just want to sweat some onions. Again, I don't really need a lot of color developed. I just want the onion flavor to infuse into the butter itself. So, getting rid of some liquid from the pan. Turning on the stove. We'll get some butter inside. Just a tablespoon, and then we'll finish it with some butter after it's done cooking. Having a little bit before is used for the onions, and having a little bit after is to really give it an amazing texture by the end of it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? Grab a little chunk of that. And again, we're not using more than like, I don't know, half a tablespoon of butter to fry up the onions. I really don't want the rice to come out too oily because the red beans and rice are going to be super rich. They're going to be super delicious. So at the moment, I'm just adding in the butter, nice low heat, my friends. And all that we want to do is we want to soften up the onions that we have set aside for them. Okay? So this is basically like a quarter of an onion that we've really, really finely diced. Again, we don't want to be able to bite into a massive chunk of onion. All that we really want to achieve is to be able to, to get the flavor of the onion throughout the rice. So quarter of an onion for a cup of rice. I think that's going to be plenty of onion. Let's get that melted down. We don't need the butter browned or anything, so you never want to use a high heat when you're melting butter. Going back in, I'm also just going to be stirring up my beautiful concoction with all my vegetables in the meantime. That's stewing down, that's cooking down, that's going to get nice and delicious. My butter is nice and melted, and so in goes my onions. Where's my bowl of onions? Oh, I already put it over there. I see. In they all go. And again, everybody, my only goal at this stage is I just want to get them all really, really nice and softened. Get them softened, get them done. Inside of the pot they go with that butter. And because it's such a small onion, because it is so small relative to the surface area, there's not going to be any long extended process for these bad boys. All that we want to do again is just to infuse it. Chef, have I ever made chicken parmesan on stream? No, Sunny Peach Crush. I've never made chicken parmesan. The reason why I don't want to make chicken parmesan is because I don't consider it a home food. I consider chicken parmesan something to be incredibly laborious, meaning you have to make a red sauce from scratch. You have to shallow fry cutlets, and I hate deep frying at home, and I hate breading things at home. You have to bread it, you have to dust it with flour, you have to put it inside of this thing. It makes a mess, it uses up so many dishes, the oil gets everywhere. I hate cutlets at home. Cutlets at home are such a pain in the ass that I never tell anybody to make cutlets. It is not the kind of a thing that I really want to teach in a home setting, right? So to me, chicken parmesan is the kind of a thing that I like to go out for. Chicken parmesan is not something that I particularly enjoy eating in a home setting. So Sunny Peach Crush, that is why I don't want to showcase it here. So a little bit of salt. Again, the rice does not need to be particularly seasoned because the red beans will be. That will have the majority of the salt itself. Would I ever compete in a TV cooking show again? If I get like accepted into one, it's like an application process basically. You have to apply and then it becomes like a whole thing. So just some salt, just some onions. And would I win? So I actually don't know if I would win. And I'm going to explain to you why. Cooking competitions, they require a very specific skill set that is not used anywhere else. Because in restaurant settings, you have your prep done for you. There is no rushing to get prep done during service. In a home environment, there is no 20-minute clock. There is no kitchen in the world of any kind that has ever existed where you need to make a complete meal start to finish in 30 minutes, an hour, right? You can't make meaningful food that way. Cooking competitions in that sense are innately really performative, right? I mean, it is. It's entertainment television. That's what it is above all else. And so it's important that we keep that expectation in mind. And so that's why I guess I'm not all that interested in doing another one, I suppose. Because I also just don't think I would do that good of a job at it. You have to specifically practice to cook things really fast in that kind of a setting. And that is not fun. Guys, cooking that fast when you're just rushing to be able to get everything done, it is not enjoyable if you've ever tried to do it. Hannah, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're having an amazing day today. So, my onions and my butter, I feel like I've gotten as much fried and toasted as we needed them. Next, everybody, we're going to add in my cup of washed up rice. All of this goes in. And we're going to make sure that we really thoroughly mix the onions into the rice. We don't want to have any blind spots. If you have any blind spots, all of that onion is just going to burn on the bottom and it's not going to evenly infuse into the rice. So gently get it in there. Fold it over on itself. And remember, before you add liquid, you can stir the rice in as much as you want. Only when it is that you add the liquid component itself, then it can start getting a little bit too mushy. And that is not what we are looking for. So we can quickly, we can quickly just toast the rice up, my friends. Being careful not to, spill over anything. Although again, this isn't a risotto. This doesn't need to be toasted per se. All I'm really just trying to do is make sure that all of my onions have been brought up from the bottom to the top. And then I'm going to show you exactly the amount of liquid that you need. We're not using measurements. We're not using cups. We're not using any nonsense like that. You do not need that for rice at home, my friends. All you need to do is just get a certain volume of water above the rice itself. Okay? For the strength of my stove, this is going to be the amount of water that I need. You fill it to the top of the rice. And then any more water after that, okay, will make it softer. If you want very granular rice, for something like fried rice, you want to have as little water as possible. If you want to have very soft, fluffy rice, right, then you would add a medium amount. But it's not an exact science, my friends. There is a gradient here. So all I'm doing is I'm scraping up any of the solids, once again, stuck to the bottom of the pan. And the process is really simple. Bring it to a boil, drop it to a simmer, put it on a lid, 20 minutes. That's it. You don't need a rice cooker. Anybody can do it. Absolutely anybody can do it. My vegetables have been cooking down. Soon enough, I'm going to add in the beans. I just made sure to give them that proper head start. Ooh, guys, that pot of vegetables that we have going for the red beans is going to be amazing. It feels like you're cooking with your mother, Kaze. Well, I'm happy to be able to provide that. But yeah, guys, that is the bulk of the work that we needed to do today. We just have to go ahead, once again, bring this up to a boil, drop it to the lowest heat possible. Put the lid on it, nice tight lid, 17 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You can't overcook rice. Rice will only start to dry out and crust on the bottom if you overcook it, right? But it's not gonna get softer the longer that you cook it past the 17, 18 minute mark. Okay, you want to have the lowest possible heat, because if your heat is too high, you will evaporate it too quickly. You want to first cook it slowly in the beginning, and then you will overdevelop the crust on the bottom. I don't want a crispy crust on the bottom of my rice. Chef, would you date someone with limited to no cooking skills? Sunny Peach Crush, the answer is yes, and in fact, that's ideal. I don't like cooking with other people. When I have other people in my kitchen, I kind of do it better. And so it becomes like an ego thing where I have to figure out how many times can I gently give advice a certain way before they get annoyed about it. I really, really prefer having somebody to cook for, and I don't really like being the one that is receiving food unless somebody does it exceptionally well. So in my ideal world, Sunny Peach Crush, I'm with somebody that lets me cook for them all the time, or somebody that's really, really good at it. So the ideal is, I guess, no cooking skills. Either no cooking skills or very high cooking skills. Anywhere in between, if they have a desire to cook, then it always becomes a problem. Guys, take a look. The rice is boiling. Now, lowest possible heat, stir it around. You stir it around now to stop it from scorching on just one side and to get it to cook evenly. Lid on. At this stage, stop the evaporation. Lowest possible heat, my friends. Low heat. Can I please get a yes, chef, from everybody watching? Not a high heat, not a medium heat, but I want you to have the flame to the smallest possible degree. So, low heat, my friends, and it will get there. I'm setting my timer for 20 minutes. Beautiful. 20 minutes, lid on. Halfway through, we're gonna mix it to make sure that the bottom isn't crusting up too much, and then it will be perfect. Now let's come back to this. This is my vegetables in my reduced turkey stock. Guys, look how cloudy it is. You see how cloudy this liquid is? That's because of all of the gelatin that we've gotten out of those lovely turkey necks. That is our delicious homemade stock, my friends. It's smoky, it's rich, it is flavorful. And if you were to smell it, it smells phenomenal. This is the heart and soul of Cajun Creole cuisine. This is it. Again, it's not about a million different spices. It is about the fundamental holy trinity of onions, celery, and bell pepper. It is about having good quality meat, and it is about giving things the time and the love that they need. So that has reduced. My vegetables have softened. So now we're going to be adding in my cans of beans. Guys, do not rinse out the beans. And normally I hate using canned beans. I only do dried beans, but I had these and I wanted to use them up. So add it in liquid and all, my friends. Liquid and all. You want all of that bean liquid, because that bean liquid is what gives us thick, creamy beans, my friends. So many recipes, especially for chili, they say to rinse out the beans. Absolute nonsense. You want it thick. You want it creamy. And the bean liquid, the bean cooking liquid, has so many of the proteins that it needs to be able to get that viscosity. So, it is a thickener. That's right on Nameless. You got it. I'm not going to be adding in salt quite yet. I'm going to let the salt that I currently have in my pot infuse into the beans as it is, and then we'll see how it goes. So in it goes. 2 cans of beans. Again, guys, sacrilegious for me to be using canned beans, but we already had some, and I wanted to use them up because these are my roommates. My roommate brought these over from their previous place, and so I want to use them before I go ahead and buy dry beans. So go ahead, let's mix up the beans now. And now is the beginning, my friends. This is the beginning of a beautiful red beans and rice. The beans are officially inside. And I could, I do have a 3rd can of beans that I could use here, but I feel like that would make for like an inhumanly large pot of beans. And I don't know if I need that much. I don't know if I need that much. I don't know if I want to have that much of it in my fridge and that many leftovers to deal with. So I think 2 cans is going to be ideal for my purposes today. Okay, one of them was light red, one of them was dark red, but it doesn't matter. It's all gonna be delicious by the end of it, my friends. They're similar enough. So what do we gotta do now? We gotta bring this up to a gentle simmer and slowly reduce it. What happens in that reduction process is we evaporate the liquid, but all of the proteins, all of the solids remain inside of the pot. That's what gives us thick, creamy, delicious beans, my friends. Okay? So get it in there. You can see how wet it is. That is not the texture that we want. You can see that the beans are really firm. That is not what we want either. These beans are going to get nice and soft, and they're going to get nice and delicious with just a little bit of stewing, with just a little bit of love and just a little bit of attention. Let's go ahead and taste it now. Let's see how far along it's come. And I'm also going to go ahead and put away a few dishes in the meantime. Because once again, everybody, when we have any amount of passive time, now is your time to clean. Not later, not after you're done cooking, but once we've stopped doing something important, now you can just go ahead and take a second to just put a few things away. So, I'm gonna go ahead and put this plate away as well. And we'll give this a good old tasting session. See how the seasoning is? Hopefully it's not gonna be too salty at this stage. Ooh. Delicious, but at the moment, it's not there yet. Would some cream work well with this? Unnameless, I think that would be disingenuous to the soul of the dish. This dish does not need any dairy. You do not need it. It'll just make it unnecessarily heavy. It does not actually need to be that heavy. It does not need to be that rich. Not at all. So I would say a very, very strong no to would cream work on this. So in the beans go. You know, I could probably do a can, and I've looked at the viscosity, I've looked at the amount of liquid that's come out of it. I kind of feel like for the third can, we could probably drain the liquid. That would be a little bit more proportionate. Too much of that bean liquid would make it almost slimy in a way that is not preferable. But at the moment, guys, that is getting there. That is getting there. That is becoming so flavorful. That is becoming so delicious, and I'm really excited about it. Whew. It's taking a second because we've been doing non-stop moving around. We've been doing things the whole time. I'm gonna quickly stir up my rice to make sure that, once again, it's cooking as evenly as possible. I've gone back on my teachings of never stir the rice as it cooks. You can stir it in a few times throughout. It'll come out delicious, and if anything, the texture will be better because the crust will not be overdeveloped on the bottom. So I'm just making sure to pat that nice down and flat. There you go. And so now, everybody, all that's happening is we're reducing it. We're evaporating the liquid. We're letting it happen. We're letting it do its thing. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? And every so often, you want to stir it around. Make sure nothing is stuck to the sides. Make sure that nothing is stuck to the bottom of the pan. And now we can also go in with some of the seasoning. Only sage, only thyme, and only black pepper. Really, really simple, really minimalistic. And do not overdo it. We can always add more of this stuff later on. So I'm adding in a little sprinkle right now, and we can add some in later. Too much sage and it becomes really unpleasant to eat. Red beans and rice, guys, it is not supposed to be, filled with all of what people call Cajun and Creole spices. That is not what the heart and soul of this dish is. So it's all inside. It's all getting there. It's all doing its thing at the moment. We're reducing it. We're thickening it. It's going to be lovely. Canned beans and stirring rice. What's next for Daramgar TV? Probably cooking in a cold pan on a high heat. That's going to be the next thing that we do, Shed Chica. Oh, God. That'd be awful. Sage advice, chef? Oh no. Did we finally get to making puns about sage? I've already banned thyme, and you guys have found that, like, a little workaround for it. Can't believe this. Getting in there, stirring it around. scraping up the sides of the pan. And now everybody, this is where you also want to take caution. I know if you want to really, really like heavily boil it over, you know, you will accelerate the evaporation process, but it will begin to stick and burn on the sides of the pan here. And so you want to take really, really good care. If you are going to be doing this on a high heat, you do need to be stirring this often. You do need to be especially scraping up the sides of the pan often, my friends. Scrape it up, scrape it up, scrape it up. And the goal is just to get those beans nice and soft. The goal is to be able to get them nice and tender. The goal is to be able to get everything nice and thick and to be able to really concentrate all of the flavor that we have happening inside of my pot. And the harder it boils, the more it reduces, the more viscous it's going to become. I love that word. I love saying viscous. I love saying viscosity. I live for it. Scraping it up, getting everything in there. The vegetables are infusing into the beans. Stir up the bottom, guys, because again, you don't want to have any burning whatsoever. Have another little taste. See how the liquid is coming along? I don't think we're going to need any additional salinity for this, honestly. Ooh, it's getting there. Even without the hot sauce, even without the sausage, everybody, it has a lot of really, really amazing flavor at this stage. Now we're beginning to get there. Now we're beginning to cook. Now it's beginning to happen. It's not at the stage it needs to be yet. It is still not thick enough. It still just has to stew down, and those beans have to get nice and soft. So keeping it cooking, keeping it cooking. There she goes. We are going to end up with a lovely pot of red beans. Viscous, viscosity, you're influencing me? Shai Chica, I love that word. It is one of my favorite words of all time. So, everybody, little recap session. What did we do? We made a homemade smoked turkey neck stock. Smoked turkey necks, all of my vegetable scraps, the bell pepper scraps, celery, onions, and some bay leaves. Inside of my pressure cooker it goes. We made the holy trinity, onions, bell pepper, and celery. Fried it in some sausage fat. We fried some Italian sausage, and we fried inside of the sausage fat. We added in the homemade stock. We let the vegetables cook in there. We added the beans. We added in some freshly ground sage, thyme, and black pepper. And now it's just slowly but surely all coming together. And when it hits the ideal viscosity, once the beans are nice and tender, we add in enough hot sauce to season. We really want to use a nice acidic hot sauce, a nice vinegar-based hot sauce, because that is going to balance out a lot of the richness. And we also have some butter rice going. We first fried some onion and some butter. We added in some freshly washed jasmine rice, and now that's all doing its own thing. So, low heat at this point, slowly but surely evaporating, going back in, scraping up the bottom, stirring up my pot of beans, my friends. Again, ensuring that nothing is scorching, ensuring that nothing is burning at all. And I can already see that the beans are getting nice and soft. They're getting nice and tender. So what can I do in the meantime? The answer is clean. I have a knife. I got a cutting board. I got to go ahead and clean both, my friends. Remember, when you have nothing to do, clean, 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 clean. Wipe off your countertops. Put things into the dishwasher. Get it done now if you don't have something immediately to do. Don't go just sit down. Don't go sit on the couch on your phone. Now is the time to clean while you still have momentum, while you're still up and going in the kitchen. Okay, can I please get a yes, chef? It's a concept that I talk about time and time and time again. But it's a very important one for me. Okay. Just washing everything up, getting it all out of sight, getting it all out of mind. My beans are slowly stewing down. The rice is going. We have nothing really else left to do. That's about it. We're just letting it all cook. We're letting it all cook to completion. And then we will be all set, my friends. Also, my sink is not getting me hot water. I don't know what's that about. Get it together, sink. What is this? This is ridiculous. Wash up all of my knives. That's right, Harold, you got it. But yeah, my goal is to just make cooking at home enjoyable. I'm here to show you guys how to love cooking. And to love cooking, you have to make cleaning as painless as possible. Because there's very few people that can actually truly say that they enjoy the process of cleaning in a kitchen. And I don't even believe them all that much. I can enjoy cleaning sometimes when I'm listening to good music on the speakers, right? On occasion, that does sound quite nice. But if in an ideal world, I would never have to clean anything ever. So, what do? We do it while the iron is hot still. Anyone see the oven clock dancing? Yeah, that has to do with shutter speed and refresh rates and LEDs. So basically, here's the idea. Lights, they flicker at a certain frequency. And then LED lights, they typically flicker, at 50 hertz. Cameras are recording at 60 hertz, right? Or 60 frames per second, rather. And so, as a result, it looks like it's flickering. But if I turn the frames per second of my camera down to 50, okay, then what would end up happening is it would no longer be dancing. The dancing would come to an end. So, let's hear a little bit of camera advice for today. And in different countries, your light bulbs, not LED bulbs, but light bulbs in general, they flicker at different frequencies. So that's why you have different camera settings to be able to adapt to the kinds of lights that you have. But if you have LED lights, they're almost exclusively at 50 hertz. So, I hope that answers your question. Well, not a question, just more like a fun little production factoid for all of you. Have I seen Home Chef Haritsu on TikTok? I have not been keeping up with TikTok in a few months. I uninstalled it from my phone. At one point, I got sick of what it was doing to me, and so I stopped it entirely. Guys, we gotta go back to the beans. We gotta stir up the beans. We neglected them. I don't know who Home Chef Haritsu is. And what kind of music am I into? I'm into anything good, Sunny Peach Crush. Anything good and made with integrity. Specifically, I love jazz fusion. But I love anything that is made well and made with intention above all else. I love it when the instruments sound like they're able to sing. I love it when people are able to solo effectively. I really just like anything and everything that is meant to be listened to, right? Especially in a recorded setting. There's a lot of music that I feel like is only kind of enjoyable for its scenes, right? So you know, music that would be enjoyable for its scenes would be things like metal and things like punk. A lot of those are heavily associated with the actual experience of going out to something. They're going out to something and it's all the culture and everything surrounding that. That's not the kind of a thing that I'm personally interested in. I'm just interested in very good music made with integrity, is my very, very pretentious answer. Scraping up the pot, scraping it up, getting everything that was previously stuck on from the sides into the rest of it, my friends. And all the while, we're getting the beans softened. The salt is penetrating the beans. They're making it nice and seasoned. The vegetables are softening. The water is evaporating. And so everything is becoming even more concentrated and even more flavorful. And yeah, School of Rock and Roll, kind of. The answer is I practice improvising, but I'm not there yet to be able to, quote unquote, play jazz fusion. Have I heard of the string cheese incident? No, what's the string cheese incident? I feel like a boomer. What are we talking about? Ooh, guys. Oh, that's good. Oh, that is so good. That is so delicious. That is so flavorful. That is so ambitious. It's a band that I might like. All right, I'll take a look. No, I've not listened to the string cheese incident. But very topical for the show, isn't it? So once again, guys, get some of the liquid from the sides. Get it up onto the sides of the pan, rather, so that everything can be scraped back down and added back into the pot of our red beans. And so the sausage is going to be the last addition. The sausage is the last addition so it doesn't overcook. We don't want a dry sausage. We want it to be nice and moist. We want it to be nice and juicy. We'll add in the cayenne for the seasoning, for the acidity, for the spice. There you go. It's all coming together, baby. And anytime I splash something onto the table, I'm just going to wipe it down. Wipe down your surfaces as you clean, everybody. It'll make your job easier later on. It'll make your life easier. So wipe it down, wipe it down. Stay cleaning, keep moving. Lovely. Okay, I gotta dry off my knives and put those bad boys away. And it does seem like my rice is about finished. Mr. Blackstar, you asked me, can you teach me how to cook? Well, that's what we're already doing here. That is what this show is all about. So, I'm afraid, I guess, yeah. Haritsu is basically a hikikomori guy in Japan who uses his hands to stir, hand soap to clean meats and mostly moldy ingredients. Okay, so it's like a content. It's just like a certain kind of content. I see. That all makes sense. That all checks out now. Everybody, I do believe my pot of rice is complete, and I'm going to show you just how perfect my stovetop rice is. With no use of a rice cooker, no need to use something like a rice cooker, anybody can make consistently delicious stovetop rice at home. Okay? Ooh, boy. It's all getting there, my friends. It's getting there. It's coming together. It's getting really, really nice and delicious. It's almost finished. We are in the final stages. My timer is done. My rice is done. I'm going to go ahead and show you what my rice looks like, my friends. You ready for the most perfect stovetop rice you've ever seen? I'm going to show you right now. Look at it. Granular, separated, and still, it is exceptionally soft. It is fluffy, but it is not overcooked, and it's not mushy. This is perfect stovetop rice every single time at home, my friends. Every single time. Look at it. Now, last addition. A little bit of extra butter. This is just to go ahead and glaze it up, to be able to give it some extra texture, to be able to make it really, really rich and delicious. Completely optional. Right? That is the best stovetop rice any of you have ever seen. It's perfectly separated, it's granular, it does everything that it needs to, my friends. That is perfect. So, almost done. I'm just stirring it around a little bit. I'm fluffing it up, and then we just got to put the lid back on and let it sit until we are ready to eat. Look at that rice. That is perfect stovetop rice. No use of a rice cooker, no help of it whatsoever. We do not need it. Rice cookers are amazing, and yes, they do it consistently. But if you don't have the space for it, if you don't own one, remember, you can also just do it yourself too. You can. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. Don't let any of these anti-intellectuals say you'll never need it. Because that is just not true. Sometimes you might. Sometimes you'll go over to somebody's home who doesn't have it. And then you're going to be the guy that can't cook rice. You need to be able to have this in your skill set, I firmly believe. So, guess what, everybody? I think my red beans have reached their ideal viscosity. I think this is exactly what they need to be. Do I ever roast fingerling potatoes or ever tiny potatoes? So WW Noah, my answer is not particularly, because I find that roast potatoes, they tend to be a little bit dry if it's just like a straight up fingerling potato. My go-to potato though, if I do a roast potato to impress people, I do like the full J. Kenji Lopez alt method with the baking soda in the water and agitating it onto a sheet tray. And it takes up so much time and it's so much effort. And those use Yukon Gold potatoes. But otherwise, baby golds. I would say baby gold potatoes would be my go-to. Okay, let's taste it. Oh, my friends, that's it. That's the taste I'm looking for. That's it. Next, acidity and heat. It is time for us to add the hot sauce. We need a good amount of hot sauce. This is going to balance all of this out. Tap, 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 tap. All of it inside. And it, well, not the whole bottle. When I say all of it inside, just, heavily tap it in there. This is going to give us heat, and specifically the vinegar from the hot sauce is going to balance out all of the richness. This is just a big, thick protein stew, my friends. Okay? We need that acidity. That acidity is going to go such a long way. Right? Let's taste it. How's it tasting? How's it going? Good, but not enough. Let's have another taste. Good, but not enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Let's add all that in. Mix it and taste it again. There it is. Ooh. That is a beautiful pot of beans. One more time. Better. I don't think I want any more heat, but I do want some more acidity. So I'm going to just go ahead and grab some vinegar. Let's see what kind of vinegar I have. I have some plain white distilled vinegar. That's going to be more than okay. I'm going to add in a little splash full of that, my friends. Again, beans and vinegar and acidity, they just go together so well. They're a match made in heaven. A little bit of vinegar goes inside. Stir it around again. Mix it up. Mix it up, mix it up. Let's have a little taste. That's it. That acidity, it makes everything pop. It gives everything that little bit of oomph that it desperately needs. That's good. That is flavory, my friends. Okay, next, I'm gonna do a little bit more of my sage, thyme, and black pepper, because I didn't really feel it that last time. We need to adjust for the seasonings now that we've added more things into the pot. So I added it in, I've mixed it up, and now we need to taste how that came out. As well as a little bit more salt, but the sausage is gonna be salty, so not too much. A little bit of salt. There she goes. That is a lovely pot of beans. Let's give that another tasting session. Just keep tasting and adjusting, my friends. Taste, taste, taste. Now I'm getting the sage. Now I'm getting the thyme. Oh, that's it. That's it. That's it right there. Perfect. Beautiful. Ideal. Last thing. Sausage. Heat it back up. Make sure that it's cooked through. This is sausage that we previously fried in a little bit of oil. It's been sitting out. It's been patient. It's been waiting for us this whole time. So add it inside. And that's our last addition. And everybody, I think this pot is complete. Heat it through. Make sure it's cooked on the inside. Give it just a second or two. Mix it all around. Get everything back in there. Look at this thing. Look at it. Rich, creamy, thick, delicious. That is a proper pot of red beans. So, again, all I'm doing is I'm just making sure that the sausage is cooked through. That's it, my friends. That's it right there. Mix it up. And I think she's done. My red beans is done. My rice is done. Everybody, I believe it's going to be time for us to plate. I'm going to put a few things away. Get a few things out of here. Get a few things out of sight and out of mind. I'm going to make a little plate for myself today. I'm not the hungriest guy in the world. I might have eaten an entire box of mac and cheese today. It's been a day. Okay? So please forgive me. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little plate. We're going to pack in some rice. and I need everybody's full attention. I need to hear one last yes, chef, from everybody watching, please, and thank you. From absolutely everybody. Packing in a little bit of rice for myself. I'm gonna go ahead and just flip that over onto my plate. Just so we have a cute little mound of rice right in the center. A portion for a baby, basically. Then I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up with the appropriate amount of red beans and rice. A couple of spoonfuls of that. A couple of spoonfuls of that. That's it. Get some of the liquid. Beautiful. And that's it. That's literally it. That is red beans and rice, guys. It is simple. It is delicious. It is the epitome of home cooking. And let's do a little recap of everything that we've accomplished so far today. Sausage. Some hot Italian sausage. Fried it. Took it out. We extracted the fat. We added in the Cajun trinity. Celery, onions, bell pepper, also some jalapeno for fun. Then we added in some garlic with some basic salt. We made our own stock out of smoked turkey necks, vegetable scraps, and bay leaves. We added that stock in, we let it all stew. We ground up sage, thyme, and black pepper. We added it in. We added in some red beans. We added in some hot sauce. We added in some vinegar as well. We fried some onions in a little bit of butter, added the rice, perfectly cooked it, stove-top rice every single time. Added back in the sausages, into the beans. And now this has to all be consumed together. Cheers. So good. Ooh. One more time. It's spicy from the chili, from the hot sauce. It's aromatic. That's it, my friends. It's smoky from the turkey necks. It's got everything you want. That's comforting. And that's it. We're gonna be done for today. Everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for stopping by. We're gonna have a different schedule this week. I'm gonna be gone this weekend. I have some Brawlhalla work. I'm gonna be gone Friday and Sunday, but I'm gonna do a Wednesday, Thursday back to back. So I'm gonna do a full schedule announcement in Discord, !mark Discord. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for stopping by. I'm gonna see you all this Wednesday nonetheless, 5 p.m. EDT as always. I hope you all have a good night. I hope you all be safe. Be well. I'll see you all really, really soon. See you all on Wednesday and take care. Thank you for being here.